If 2024 has taught us anything, it's that when you're cornered by market dips and mounting stress, you either break or you innovate your way out. Most of the restorers that we've talked to this year and last year, on online forums, our customers, clients, they tell us that 2024 was brutal. Business was down, but life in general was hard. In this season, we're going to be talking about some of those challenges, those struggles, but in this episode, we want to deep dive into 2024 and talk about some of the things that we heard, the things that we helped our clients with, and how they were able to get through it and start strong in 2025.
I can't wait. Welcome, Toby.
Thank you, sir. Welcome to you too.
Yeah, just wanted to
Round
welcome
5,
everyone.
right?
Yeah, it's about time. We a little delayed, but I want to welcome everyone to season 5 of our Disaster Podcaster. If this is the first time you have come across us, welcome. I'm glad you joined us. But we do have 4 seasons before this one. We started this years ago, and now lots of people still are doing podcasts. They were then, but even in our space, it seems like every week there's a new one. So if you're choosing to spend your time with us, thank you. Every season, I would say, has a little bit of a different theme. We kind of go a different direction. Some years we're more interviewing people. We're doing more of that kind of thing. Sometimes it's just me one-on-one. Last season was about projects. I mean, we literally went into large loss projects, to be specific. A lot of people had said, let's story tell a little bit. Let's talk about some of these big monster jobs that that have happened over the years and stuff. So I shared a little bit of those. Got pretty good response, but what we found out that people just want education and information that's pertinent to them and help them move forward. So that's what we are trying to focus on this year, and hopefully we'll do this. It's every other week, every other Friday at 10 o'clock, depending on your time zone, 10 o'clock Eastern. So the best thing to do is just going to be to subscribe. Just so you know, wherever you're catching this, it is available on YouTube for video because Toby is so handsome. I had to put it on video.
Of course.
And then there's on audio on all of your Spotify, your Apple, and anywhere else that you might want to listen to your while you're in the car. Some people are actually using YouTube in their car to listen, but I wouldn't watch YouTube while I'm driving. That might be illegal in most states. Yeah, so Toby already started out with a really, really powerful beginning of what this episode is going to be focused on. And really, it's not going to be doom and gloom. We're going to at least cover what we think we all shared so that everyone knows you weren't alone dealing with it. But then we're going to transfer into let's not repeat it because the conditions could happen again. We could continue to see or run into another drought of leads falling down. And I think I have some reasons why I think that happened. I don't know if we'll get to it here, but let's don't stay stuck. Let's not let that happen again. Let's learn from our mistakes and move forward. And I think Toby's got a lot of things written here that we're going to be collaborating on to go through it. And just before we kick it off, Toby, I think you will agree, we're not immune to it. If the market, if our audience, if our avatar, if our client type, restoration companies, small and medium, if they struggle, it goes downhill. I mean, we are a cost to a business. We're not a luxury, but when you're looking at your P&L saying, how do I survive? How do I stay afloat? You've got to make some hard choices. We were those hard choices, which we would recommend to someone. So
yeah,
we had to pivot a lot, didn't we? And
oh yeah,
we cut our cost. Toby and I, we used to have an office, although it wasn't at Trump Tower. We had a collaborative place, and we said we could do what we do at our home studio. So we both went and invested a couple hundred, or Toby looked like put about $4,630 in his.
I'm the big spender.
He's got like the Theo Vaughn look over there. I'm picturing you as Theo Vaughn while we're talking, by the way, on this podcast.
Oh God. Okay. Here we go.
There we go. So anyway,
hey, before we jump into it though, make sure you like and subscribe. That helps us out tremendously. It helps us get the word out and how we can help the restorers out there. So make sure you like and subscribe, no matter what platform you're on. Very helpful for us.
It is helpful. And it's helpful because we have a lot of people asking us questions about pain points on stuff that we're already covering. So it just means that you're not caught up in the algorithms or your attention is on 100,000 other things, which happens to all of us. But we're going to hope that we give you enough good content that you say that's worth subscribing to and checking back into every other week or so. So,
Yep.
yeah, good point there, man.
Yeah, well, before we jump into how we can help people and what it is that we do, I want to talk about just some of the overall challenges, because I think it's important for everybody to realize that they're not the only ones. It's so easy for restorers, especially, man. Gosh, it's such a good group of people. Everybody feels deeply. It seems like in this industry, if I was to kind of put a character trait on the industry as a whole, I would say they're extremely empathetic, and that means that you feel deeply. So at the same time, a lot of restorers feel like they're alone, they're by themselves, they're the only ones up at night, responding to these emergency calls and things like that. So I think it's important for everybody to realize you're not alone. That's the first thing. And if that sounds all touchy feely, I get it, right? This industry is made up mostly. I don't want to exclude anyone, but it is mostly made up of men, strong men, and men often have a hard time breaking down a little bit the walls and just realizing we're all struggling. It's okay. I don't want to come off as snowflakey either by any means. It's important that if we start there. Now, here's what we heard about last year. There was no major weather events. The reduced demand from the market hammered everybody, and that's for a wide variety of reasons. We had the election cycle, and goodness knows, you talk about a roller coaster. That was a roller coaster of an election cycle, and it put a lot of people into this overall this feel of uncertainty. Insurance premiums, they're changing rapidly. And Clark, you can probably talk more on that. But insurance pulling out of some markets is even a thing. We heard that in Southern California when the fires happened. Not long before that, insurance just completely pulled out. Florida, it's happened a couple of times, it seems. So there's some market struggles that are causing this, and then you pile on the fact that there weren't any weather events that restorers could respond to. There was weather events, but not the type that cause people to go and to allow the market to shift in its air quotes, if that's normal way. So storm chasers stayed home. Storm chasers had to make money, so they diluted their markets even further. And then another thing that we saw a lot of was in 2024 was M&A was a massive push for the industry. And it caused a lot of uncertainty. People kind of holding out, not spending money, like trying to shape their businesses in a way that made them attractive, or the conversations were going on, and that causes things to stall in a real way. These are widespread issues. They're not isolated to a single person or a certain type of restoration business. And I think that all of these things had a stack effect and just caused everyone to be very conservative in their spending, the uncertainty, and then you pile on the fact that everybody feels deeply and that everybody kind of felt isolated. It made for an interesting 2024 for sure.
Yeah. Let me hit on a few of those. So, I mean, Toby, we started second quarter of last year, we started getting a lot of different kinds of calls.
Yeah.
The phones have stopped ringing. We've talked about that before, but never in such a widespread, it might have been regional, it might have been business size type or something like that. But we started seeing that. We attended and hosted a few roundtables in live and as well as on virtual around what has happened. WTF has happened to all the leads. I think there's that. And of course, I have some better than hypothesis. I think some insurance tactics that have been causing that. I think a lot of people we've discussed that plenty. Check out our channels. I think that it depends because there are some people who didn't struggle, and it calls you and I to take a look at what the people that are sustaining or even in some cases growing,
Growing, yeah.
what are they doing different? That's the question we have to ask, and that's where we can, A/B test everything. Those that were heavily in digital, I think digitally there were a lot of changes with Google, with other markets last year that they changed SEO things. We can't disregard the saturation in our industry. It could be that if you're in Colorado Springs, you used to be one of 5 and you're now of one of 18. There aren't more losses being reported. Matter of fact, there might be less. So now you're splitting that pie a whole lot more, and you're getting quieter. Your marketing type might not be working as well. Plumbing, again, I said, plumbing companies, they just keep raising the referrals. Those relationships are becoming less than the best. They used to be the best relationships. And then, as Toby talked about, M&A, which, by the way, was mergers and acquisitions. That's the private equity that's coming into this industry, and that plays a big part into it because of the money that is submerged into someone else's operations that can allow them to spend double, triple marketing than you, and things like that. But yeah, so there's a lot of things, there's a lot of heartache, a lot of people living off of the profit that they had, built up. They had built up a nest egg for a rainy day, and that was the rainy day, and they had to use it. But then when it didn't recover quick enough, as Toby mentioned, without weather, without storms that are usually to refill the tank, without those, they're left with, okay, now I've gone through profit. Now I'm hitting my line of credit. Now my credit card. We started seeing some layoffs, of course. People said, let me cut that overhead, shrink down our business, sold some
people
equipment.
up to 50% of their business
They did.
laid off.
50% of their workforce. And then a lot of people just started selling off equipment, physical assets, trucks. I saw a lot of trucks come up for sale last year, and a lot of used fans of dehumidifiers, and it's still happening. And I think, Toby, I've been in this 23 years later this year, and I've seen this cycle 4 to 5 times. We have sunny days, green pastures, green fields, and then we go through a winter, a long, hard drought conditions, like we mentioned, different conditions. And a lot of it is how the insurance companies have changed their policies. So, and those things are out of our control. And I think when we're talking about our hardships, we have to look at these things logically. What can we control and what can we not? Now, we control on how we respond to them, but we can't help how they're happening. And Toby, I think the other side of what you talked about, the personality types, generally men, lots of women in this industry, and they're not impervious to the stress and things.
Not at all.
But entrepreneurs take on this defensive fight, and when someone's crushing your business, whether it be plumbing, HVAC, or some other party, your natural is to put the boxing gloves up and fight. And we see that a lot with the insurance companies. We see a lot of restorers want to become PAs and find a way to knock out the big guy. And while that's a valiant, noble effort, it is futile, and it does take away a lot of energy from your business. So those are some things I wanted to say as we talk about the rest of these issues. And of course, it might create some comments here in these podcasts. So you'll say,
actually,
you're right,
you brought up.
Now, just comments are going to tell us, hey, you're right on, or you're leaving out a whole bunch of things that happened. And listen, we're not perfect. So you tell us what we're missing here.
Yeah. One comment, one thing that you brought up that I didn't even think of earlier was the whole PA conversation. A lot of restorers are trying to figure out how to make more money. And I heard this conversation so many times last year that I don't recall ever hearing before, in the same frequency, I should say, was that I can A, take the fight to the carrier, and B, I can make more money in the process, because listen, these guys are trying to figure out how they can make more money. So let me become a PA. I can charge the customer more, and I can have the legal grounds to fight the battle. So there's some people that do it and are successful, and my hat's off to them. But as a general rule, I don't think that's that's not a position that we would advise someone to take. I heard that conversation a lot more, and I think it was coming from a place of, money's tight. How can I maximize my invoice, or get paid more money from the same customer? And a lot of people were thinking the strategy at play was to become a PA. So,
Toby, in most places in this country, you can't be a PA and a contractor on the same job. So they have to, you have to know that. It doesn't take very long when you're investigating, should I be a PA or how should I use a PA? That becomes an issue. I want to challenge something that even on the surface, it looks like contractors that are entertaining the PA fight, even bringing in a different PA. There's obviously a financial salvation. I mean, they want to not lose the job. They want to not, they don't always want to make it bigger. They just want to not lose it. But you mentioned earlier, this overwhelming empathy we have, which is we can't stand to watch what seems to be, and I don't think it's always true, a defenseless, helpless, insured homeowner being abused by a huge entity, which what I call them, Toby, they're a mafia, they're organized
yeah,
crime. Insurance uses the same tactics that an organized crime syndicate: power, money, coercion, etc. Contractors know this. We see it from a real internal way, and when we see homeowners being abused, it triggers a call to action. It triggers I can't let this happen. And I do see a lot of people put on the war paint and say, I don't care if I go down in flames, I'm not going to let them do this to people anymore. Again, very noble, very honorable. But at the end of the day, you're going to not have a company. You're going to lose what you built. And depending on why you built your company, you really need to think about the why. I don't like bullies. I detest bullies, and I detest what the insurance. But I'm going to play the long game, and I'm trying to collaborate in industry to help fight together. And it's one person's not going to do it. But that's what I see a lot with the PA route is I'm going to show them. I'm going to beat them up with their own game, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes they get little micro wins, but I think long term, it sucks a lot of valuable energy and time away
yeah,
from how do we get past this one job? How do we get the next 40 and next 80 and next 316 this year? And sometimes that long view gets shrouded by the small dopamine hit of a win.
yeah, agree. We weren't immune, were we? We
Mm-mm.
we certainly felt that pain, and like you talked about before, it's um, many times we're the first to go. It seems like, and I think with good reason. We had a few clients that had to let us go last year because they cut 50% of their workforce. Leads they were paying lots of money for lead opportunities. They were paying a sales coach. We have our own, we're not sales coaches or marketing coaches by any means, but we can certainly help on us to a small degree with that. And it didn't matter what they tried, what money they threw at it, it wasn't working. So we did have a few clients that we had to part ways with, and it was a temporary thing, but it happened. And as a result, we certainly felt the pinch.
We did. But it's business. Ups and downs. There's no business that climbs forever. Toby, I know you've had your own business. I've had my own business. I've had to make adjustments to every single one of them, some bigger, some smaller. Um, and I think that's what makes a good business is the adaptability and having a business model that is structured to not be overwhelming. I mean, like we look at big, major corporations when they have to make cuts, it's 1,000 jobs or it's something like that. We don't have expensive buildings. We don't have huge amounts of overhead just because we know we are in this restoration industry, which is a roller coaster. But yeah, it sucks. We had big goals like everybody else. We wanted to be at this so that we could do X. We wanted to bring on a few extra people onto our staff last year. So, but yeah, so when Toby says we know where you're at, I know it because I've had a restoration company that I've had to make those hard decisions. But even currently in restoration advisors and what we do, we're not a huge firm, but it affected us, and we had to make hard decisions. And Toby and I had 2 or 3 sessions where we sat down and looked at cost and subscriptions, and we made arguments to keep stuff, and we said, no, it's probably, we hate to see that go, but we got to cut that out. We didn't attend many events last year, right? A lot of less travel.
Yep.
We usually are big on traveling around and hitting shows, or we did have our Montana business event. Listen, you got to go through the bad, because the good doesn't look nearly as good when it's always good. So there is that way to look at things.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it as an opportunity to cut fluff, right, and retool, so to speak, and I think that's one thing that I took away from the struggles that our business had was when things are good, you tend to take your eye off of the little $100 purchases or $50 purchases, and those things stack, man. And then we'll just say a software subscription, because everybody's got apps and things like that. Those things add up, and in the good times when money's flowing, jobs are flowing, we're making good money. You don't look at those things. You don't worry about those things. But when things get tight, that's an opportunity to retool so that you're good to go when things get busy again. So,
what's the old saying, Toby? Smooth seas make weak sailors, rough seas make strong sailors. So
yeah,
if you can get through stuff like this, if you can make it to the other side, then you've told yourself, I have a sustainable business, because that's what a sustainable business is. Everybody does great when it's really, really sunny and doing fine. That's easy to make money at. Right. It's how do you do it when things are tough, and how do you stand up to competition? How do you, and Toby, we mentioned it here. I just don't want to dismiss it. Even if you make all those cuts, the mental torture you put yourself through, because even if you know it's not your fault, you still will say, it's my fault. I've let people down again.
Absolutely.
Add gold. And that little voice, and I'm not impervious to it. I have high standards. And I use that pain, I use that fear to drive me, but I still have to endure it. I still have the fatigue and the stress of, in my case and Toby's case, people counting on us, promises we made to ourselves and to others, or family. You just, as a human, as a man, as a leader, and a woman as a leader, you just there are no excuses. I'm extreme ownership. So, sometimes logic of why we're here doesn't make up for it, but I'm still here, and I can do better, and I need to do better. And that's the drive that we see in the right people, the top 8% of our industry, push through. So we're not discounting the little voices in our head that makes us feel like failures. Natural. It's not true, but it's natural.
Yep. Another thing that I took away from our own struggles was that whole retooling process. Not only is that eliminating waste, but it's also restructuring and getting more efficient in the process. We tend historically we've tended to be like more of a one-on-one type of coaching firm, but our time is finite, so we get lots of calls from people who can't really afford the one-on-one, but they still need help. So in this whole process, we've been able to create a offering for the smaller restorers, Restoration Business Academy. It's an opportunity for a brand new restorer to come on board and get some education to help them level up, if you want to say it that way, to take that next step on their journey. But then if it's somebody that's established, doesn't really have enough for the in-depth one-on-one coaching, but they need just a little bit of coaching, they need a lot more education on the business side, we've got an offering for that too. So that whole retooling process allowed us to really just stop and think about the opportunity that was in front of us, and how can we help more people with less. So, and then, you started working on CATx, which is to help, with commercial and getting people that are established and looking for a way to really level up into the commercial space. So, 2024 was hard, but so many good things came from 2024. And I think if everyone were to stop and analyze it from in hindsight, they would say, yeah, it was tough, but here's all the good things that happened. And I think that's what I've been able to do. And I'm super excited for 2025. It's February. It's middle, I guess technically for February, it's the middle of February at this point, and we're just launching this podcast for a host of internal reasons. I'm so stoked for 2025. This podcast, I've been so excited to get launched for 2025 and to really jump into this. But I think 2025 is going to be great. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I do too. Toby, I want to share everyone. Toby and I sit down at the end of last year, beginning of this year, and we kind of, a lot of people do this. What's our one word theme for the year? And Toby's, I'm going to share yours: consistency.
Yep.
There's a lot of different caveats to that, or reasons to say consistency, and lots of different things. But I want to go back to 2024 last year, and I want to talk about others, and I want to talk about ourselves in a tough year last year, and for our industry, for our country. Consistency as a brand, consistency as a company, as a leader, meaning that despite all of the chaos, all of the pressure, all of the low sales that's going on, if you as a leader of your company, if we as a brand, as Restoration Advisors, if the RIA, if you don't collapse with it, if you stay consistent, say, I'm still going to show up, somehow I'm going to muster all the strength, create new solutions. I'm not going to go away. I'm going to get rid of a lot of expenses, like Toby has called it, retooled. At the end of all that, because when things do show back up, the world looks at people saying there's two categories: those that folded, that weren't strong enough, and those that withered through it. They're going to gravitate towards you. And you, as a restorer in a market, if you continue to spend money on marketing, if you continue to not, if you didn't drop your ads and become, because people will say, well, I guess XYZ Restoration is gone. They may not, you might not know they're recognizing your branding and your marketing, but when they need you the most, they're going to remember you. But if you stop marketing, John Grubb was just in our RBA talking about this. You don't have to be 110%, but don't drop down to 5%. Find a happy medium saying, this is what I can afford. I want to continue to put that on. But that's just one area of it. But we continue to talk about Toby and I and our team of Restoration Advisors. A lot of people last year could not afford coaching, but that doesn't education. But we all know that education never stops. So I think we did more free stuff last year, free webinars, inviting people into free different things, just because we're still trying to serve the people we said. It can't be lip service. And I think that's you. You can't just say you're going to show up when the sun is shining. You got to be there when it's raining too. Maybe not as much, but I think that you come out of the other side of those events. And here we are in 2025. You learned a lot about yourself, the public, your market, your employees. They learned a lot about you and who we really were in our core values and stuff. And that helps your retention. That helps people grow. So I think is a bigger play to it. Those that says, I will dip into my line of credit and I will take on debt. My business is worth it. What we do is worth it. Those that said, no, I'm going to shrink down to nothing. You're going to start over. 2025 is going to be a bigger climb for those people who didn't stop. They stayed started. So I really wanted to, Toby, inspire everybody to remember, if you were one of those that stayed relatively consistent, I think you will be rewarded this year with the Perseverance Award. People will recognize, what's the old saying, game recognizes game. Partnerships. Yeah. People want to work with people who can make it through hard stuff, as opposed to, I don't want to partner in someone, whether a transaction or a relationship, that first signs of a squall, they drop sail and go away. I don't want that. So I'm a big believer in strong business ethics, doing what you have to do. Toby mentioned make the cuts, get rid of the big expensive F-250 truck payments, drive a used vehicle for a year or two. Pitbull calls it stealth wealth. You ever heard him talk about that? Anybody? A lot of people hate Pitbull, but man, that guy's inspirational. That guy has done some stuff. But he says, man, when you're making big money and you're hitting everything, don't look like you're hitting big money. Just play low key, man. Don't go to a restaurant and they say 20-minute wait, and you're like, oh man, don't you know who I am? Say, no problem, 20 minutes. I'll just sit over here. Just have that stealth wealth, and you'll attract a whole lot more people. I know I'm getting off topic there, but a lot of business is not about decisions and tactics. It's about your personality type and who you really are when it means the most. Your character, your core values are great, but if they're not tested, they're just words on the wall. So
Yeah.
I will always say, in a storm like we've had, you really figure out who you are, and everybody else will figure out who you are too.
The thing when I look at who is coming out of this strong, it's people that took Warren Buffett's advice. They invested when the market was low. Restorers that I see as successful coming out the other side of this in 2025 are people that pivoted, they innovated, retooled, as I talked about. Some of the things that when and I've got a few, Clark and I, we've got some clients that I would say are in the A category. Those guys really collaborated in their market. They built relationships. They didn't just go buy more leads. They actually took the time to get roots dug in to their market. Very relational and not transactional in any way. They didn't see anybody as competition. It was all relationships. So they really took the time to get to know other restorers. If anybody knows what the term "sell the gap," they were able to collaborate with restorers on a completely new level, and it brought in some good sustainable relationships that I think are going to play out very, very well in the long run. Obviously, when money is tight, you want to collect on the work that you've performed, and you want to get your AR down as low as possible. So another thing that I saw a lot of people focus on was client onboarding. But the problem is, if you start the process off wrong and you've got this pool of accounts receivables, then you kind of have to. It's really hard to change the game once it's in the receivable state. So we worked with quite a few clients last year to get their onboarding process corrected so that they could increase their cash flow and not have this AR issue. And then despite, it being low, I think the people that were successful, they took the time to focus on things that brought them joy and fulfillment outside of work. Because if all of your joy and fulfillment comes from performing and responding, which a lot of people in this industry, man, they get fired up when that call comes in. It's almost like a new adrenaline rush, right? But if you don't have anything else outside of that brings you joy and fulfillment, you're gonna burn out. So we saw a lot of people taking time to do things that allowed them to take their focus outside of restoration, to kind of refill their cup, so to speak.
Yeah. Toby, some of what you're talking about when we start, I'm imaging people, the two columns, the two teams pulling on a, tug of war, those that made it and those that didn't, or those that struggled a whole lot more than others. If I look at high level characteristics, Toby, of the people that succeeded through the 2024, it was most of them, and I know we talk about this a lot. We talk about WRT to CEO. They have to have a CEO mindset. You can't be in 2024. If the owner was still going to the AMRT classes, I would have said that probably is not where you need to be spending your time. AMRT, AWRT, Those things are important to your business for the quality, but they're not what the owner should be doing. That's not what the captain of the plane or the boat should be doing. So I look at companies that are centric around one leader who is the alpha, that everything goes through him or her. It's a micromanagement philosophy, as opposed to those that say, I've hired a team of super smart people, some of them smarter than me. And then you've got to build systems that don't require, because you will burn out, but you've got to have other people, other divisions that catch things quicker. Last year, 2024, it kind of started around Q2, but some people didn't react till Q3 and even Q4. Whereas people that were really measuring and monitoring their scorecards in real time, they were able to say, whoa, QT, something's going on. Let's give it another week or two or whatever and see if this keeps up. And then we've got to make some decisions and ask the questions why. But if you aren't reviewing your P&L, now you may feel the pain of losing money because you're like, the bank account's low. But that doesn't tell you why. It just tells you it's low. And usually it triggers a spontaneous reaction to go do something else. And I don't know, go take on work that's not what you usually do. Go take on revenue instead of profit and do non-profitable work, which is catastrophic if you're already sinking. But some people said, hold on a minute. The people that we normally get our work from, our referral source, our leads, that's not working, but something else is. Let's shift over and put money into that. But you've got to have a system to that. I mean, those are the difference between the ones that won and the ones that didn't. And Toby mentioned last year I dabbled in it, but one of my goals was CATx, and I'm going heavy into CATx my time this year, which is helping companies that don't have to be huge, they don't have to be franchised, but really, really in their market, start capturing more commercial work. I'm not talking large. I could be large. They could be larger than what you usually do, but certainly within the realm of what you can handle. But when I'm talking commercial, and this is the way I like to tell everybody, Toby, on your way to and from work, to and from jobs and your commute or your regular route around your city or your county, you're passing commercial buildings that don't have a clue who you are. And they periodically have the types of losses that you do. So it's a game you're not even getting to play in. So we're trying to help some people at least capture some of that. And if you've ever done commercial, which I'm sure most people have done some, you'll realize that it's a completely different game, but it's also a very rewarding. It's quick, it's in and out. It's not the emotional. The adjusters are different on the commercial side, in my opinion. I think that they're a little more professional, and you get away from some of the TPAs. So we can talk about CATx another time. I do have an event that I'm teaching next week. So depending on when you're watching this, if you're watching this in real time, February 17, 18, in Richmond, Virginia, I have a 2-day workshop where we're launching CATx, where we're helping about 30 to 35 people, maybe that's 20 businesses, 25 businesses, start to develop a commercial division in their company. So that was our pivot, because I think that is a way that we get away from lethargic leads coming in from your regular residential claims process and through programs and TPAs. And I told you, I think I know some reasons why people are filing less claims. A lot of people are doing more estimates, but that was our pivot. It's like, what if we gave people an alternative revenue source, commercial, that might be a little more recession proof or market proof than what we ever saw. So, but I think that's what separates the winners and losers, Toby. And I know you do too, is those that pay attention and those that delegate and don't try to take everything on themselves, because all of us have a limit on how much we can carry on our backs and how many things we can do at one time. So if we're taking our eye off of 13 things to do one or two, those other 13 things are still happening, and they're chopping us down. So you need coverage. And luckily I'm proud to say we're in that place where we help people to do that. That's what we chose to put our careers on, is to see people win in the hard seasons like this.
100%. 100%.
Toby, let me go ahead and talk about the other thing that I'm working on this year. Again, this podcast is not all a promo. But when Toby and I took about 2 or 3 sessions last year and looked at the things that were keeping our clients and even non-clients, colleagues, we have a lot of friends and a lot of communities, what's keeping them from getting to their next level, whatever that might be. That one thing was the ability to grow their team. And I like to call it the backbone, the middle management. From lead tech up to general manager, that area is really your company. It's not the owner, the leader. And the techs are great. The low level, first line, frontline techs, they will become, and you should be lifting them up. But what you need are people that can accept and collaborate with you on your company mission and the goals that you've all collectively put together, and then all accept their own roles and responsibilities and what they're accountable for in that. And we found that we have great owners and leaders who have lots of energy and widespread knowledge, but they are inhibited. They are handcuffed to really explore maybe commercial, maybe new revenue sources, or travel to meet other restorers or whatever, because they are getting daily phone calls on the basic stuff. They don't have SOPs. So how do we help that in this year, 2025, besides CATx, and this is something that I am focused on, but Toby's probably going to more than collaborate on and then use it in our coaching and RBA, is I'm working on middle management optimization. So people call it soft skills, stuff outside of WRT, getting the middle management better at doing their job and understanding what it is, and then improving the executive leadership's ability to find the kind of people that will accept those types of responsibilities, that want the young operations and project managers and production managers and contents managers that want to make a career out of this, and that they're striving to grow, and they're willing and able to accept assignments of responsibility. We came out of COVID with not finding those people. Now we're starting to find employees again, but we've got to upscale them because they're not being taught that stuff in school. Responsibility is not a top priority for a lot of younger people in this world and this industry. So I'm focused this year on really, really building some programs to strengthen and reinvest in those people. And I'm excited about that. I think that's one area that, and there are other coaches in our business that focus on that, and they do a great job. I just think it's one of those things where more people need to put some things in place, some tools and assets to help the owner. Because the ones that we saw succeed, Toby, tell me if I'm not right, if their teams were executing, it cleared the way for them to do what they do best, which was to grow the business, and the numbers showed it. The ones that stay
100%.
stuck, that can't just can't overcome obstacles because they're dealing with Mrs. Homeowner and this estimate and this adjuster. If they're bogged down by that, that's where they live, and that's frustrating. And the people that are doing it aren't doing it on purpose. They just lack those assets and resources to pull themselves away. And I think if we can all solve some of those little micro issues, we create a better wealth of restorers in this industry.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because I've been talking in the beginning parts of 2025 with a client of ours who absolutely, from a gross revenue standpoint, just absolutely blew up last year. But his problem is he gets pulled back in because he hasn't taken the time to invest in the talent that he needs to take some of the stuff off of his plate. So he actually kind of has the reverse of what everyone else has. He's in a very special market with some very special connections. So that's why he's an anomaly in that sense.
Yeah.
The thing that's holding him back is the fact that he hasn't properly invested in his middle management. Not just from a training perspective, but actually from a recruiting and hiring standpoint. So,
Yeah.
Also interesting that you brought that up because in my brainstorming session the other day, I was kind of outlining a podcast topic around middle management. So stay tuned for those listening if that's something of interest to you, because we've got a whole podcast episode probably coming that will be on this topic. So,
yeah, I think every entrepreneur dreams of a company that just doesn't need them, and it doesn't. Yeah, so if you're the owner and your phone rings 77 times a day for asking questions that probably could have been decided. You have a team that either doesn't know how to do something, or you have somehow not delegated and let them know it's okay for them to make a decision, or they're just afraid of failure. And those are all soft skills that you've got to beat. But I've already released one, Toby, the 52 weeks. Like, we have 52 meeting templates for every single week when you have with your team. I'm talking soft skills. Meet with your team on how to deal with tough customers, angry customers, how to collaborate as a team when you have a coworker that's having a shit day, how important it is that we not let that derail and let that expose weaknesses in front of our customers, in front of each other, and stuff like that. So go over to RBA and check that out. That's ready, but it's a simple go each week and pick a topic that out of the 52, and you never have to wonder what we meet with our team about to up level people. It's really interactive. It's got homework involved and stuff like that. So those are the kinds of things that Toby's mentioning. I look forward to the podcast where we can explore that. We have lots of examples of clients that have, uh, gosh, Toby, we have a client that brought somebody in as a lead tech, and in less than a year, that person is an ops manager. I mean, they really, number one, they had some built-in skills, but they were freaking hungry and asked, boss, Mr. So-and-so, what do I need to do to elevate? I've got a wife and a kid, and I want to be more than lead tech, but I'm willing to do it now. I love that story. I love someone. Now, you can elevate someone too fast. It's certainly that he's an anomaly, but he has showed up. He's not perfect, but he's ops manager, and he's every single week taking chances, doing what he needs to do, humble to his staff that works under him, and says, I don't know everything, but you guys do, and what do you need from me? And that's what you need your managers to ask. And managers need to know that they no longer hold the positions they used to have. Their job now is to support everybody else that holds the positions they used to have, and they have to use their expertise. But they're no longer the experts in that. They're the experts in managing lots of people at that. So don't want to go deep dive. It really fires me up because I know the potential of what investing in earnest people can do. When you can get a team like Chick-fil-A working for you, the owner can get out of the way and really, really, really maximize opportunity and fix a lot of things. All right. Well, for our podcast, that about does it. I want to kind of recap what we talked about. I think we shared and we explored that most everyone. It's really funny that when I talk about the hardships of 2024, there's a percentage of people saying, "What are you talking about? We had a great year." And like, you don't stay out of the conversation. But
Yeah,
by and
exactly.
large, our industry did not have a great 2024. Toby mentioned a lot of them. I honestly do think that the election,
I think it played a big part.
regardless of what side you're on, it affected real estate. It affects a lot of things. It created a hesitancy in people's expenditures and things like that. I'm optimistic. Again, whether or not you're on the red side or the blue side, and your guy won or didn't win, you should care about our country. It's not about the person that's up there. If our country thrives, we have good national security, we have security in our dollar, uh, things like that. Companies start hiring again, companies start spending money again, taxes are somewhat salvaged, and you're not. Good things happen. That's all our industry, our world thrives off of emotional intelligence about go or don't go. So I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic about our industry. I think some of the things that we talked about they might be permanent. I don't think the insurance company is just going to start saying, "Okay, everyone, deductibles are zero."
You win.
It's not, what's that?
You win. They're
Yeah,
not saying that.
they're not going to give up. So we have to accept that we might have to do different things. Toby mentioned onboarding. That has been a huge plus to add to your arsenal of how you onboard. And onboarding customers means, setting expectations, letting them know what you're going to do for this, and let them know what their job's going to be, which is to make sure they collect the payment from the insurance company to pay you. It's not your job to fight their insurance company. But also, no money, reconstruction, we're on hold. You won't be waiting on us. But onboarding has helped a lot of people. But the insurance companies are getting on to that. They're already learning that, well, the industry, the restorers are calling our game, and we move on. So I think the best of the best, and I'm hoping that most of you consider yourself the best of the best because I do. You need to sit down if you haven't already, and I don't care how much fear, how much last year, whatever, set that goal for this year and reset and start again. It's not the same year, it's not the same problems, and I think it's going to improve, but don't repeat what you did last year. Do something different because what's the old saying from I think it's Michael Jordan? Nothing's going to change and nothing's going to change. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
You cannot rinse and repeat and hope for a better outcome. That's a passive approach. Um, I think that there's good news and bad news. I think a lot of people in this industry are going to go bye bye this year. Not a lot. I think there's a percent. The lowest level, whatever that might mean to you or whatever, but non good business owners, crooked restoration contractors or whatever, bad reputation. I'm already seeing signs of equipment being sold, business being sold. I think that we will see a desaturation to some degree. I don't know what M&A is going to do. I think that's come way back, Toby. I think the M&A,
Yeah, it seems like that whole conversation is not happening
they're
near as
not
much as it
investing in
was.
companies that didn't have a good 2024. They like to look at the most current P&Ls and they're like, oh, we found a chink
Mhm.
in the armor. We're really receptive to the market, and that's not a good investment. So they'll move along. Not completely. The
Yeah.
ones that did mergers, they're realizing they overpaid for some things, and they're having to really dump a lot of money into it. That's all. Though I always like to say, if you're a small speedboat, you've got an advantage over a big behemoth cruise ship. You can pivot, you can spin, you can turn left and right much quicker. You can fly under the radar, and most of our industry is made up of small to medium companies.
Yeah.
Large restoration companies are a small piece of percentage wise of the population. So set those goals, set those rocks on each quarter on what you have to do. Set up, reach out to us. Let us talk to you about ROS because that's what that is. Look in real time saying we're off track, on track. We're not getting things done. Ask the question why, who's not doing their job. You have your answer. You can make the fix and you can keep going, and that goal never goes away. So that's what I'm going to harken on everyone that's listening is be strategic, be a business. This is not the owner's name is on the building, and this is my personal passion project. If you have employees, you have an obligation. You should do that. So to recap, you weren't alone. Lots of people dealt with a lot of things. Some of it's going to auto repair itself, and some of it won't. You need to be really, really strategic and figure out where you are and what to do. If we mentioned a weakness that you have, which is middle management or sales optimizations, find a solution for that. I don't care where you find it. There's a lot of great
Yeah.
consultants in this industry. Get some
Agree.
help because your community, those homeowners that you love to serve, they're rooting for you. They don't want to find a watered down version of just a bad contractor that works for the carrier. They don't deserve that. They deserve good contractors like yourself. So stay in it
And
for
if
them.
Yeah, and if you find yourself in a position of like, okay, man, maybe there is help out there. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment below. Let us know that the challenges you're facing. And if we're the first to tell you that we're not a good fit or we can't help you with the thing that you're struggling with, but we know a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, so drop a comment below, and if we can't help you, we will refer you out. And even if we can help you, we'll say, hey, we're an option, but here's some other people that you could look at. Um, if you're listening on a podcast platform, click the link in the description, go to Restoration Business Academy. We have an entire community of people. We're getting close to 600 people in there now.
Oh, really?
Um,
Ooh.
yeah, yeah. So we've got an entire community of people that can help. And that's what this community is built on. It's let's help each other grow. We're all going to grow together. So we have a wide range of people in there. And if your answer can't be if your question can't be answered inside that community, I dare say that someone knows someone that can.
Toby, I like to say what we're doing, what we're building, and I do look at us as builders and creators. I know I am, and I'm probably you are. I'm building the entity that I wish I would have had when I was starting out in business. I would have loved to have a tribe of mentors and a community of, and by the way, our community, a lot of, they don't show up if they don't want to help people. They're usually, especially if you get into one of our paid programs, if someone's paying skin in the game, they're engaged. But our community, you put out a problem you're having, it's not uncommon to get, it's a lot like social media without the social media persona. No one's accountable for their actions and they say crap. We don't put up with that. But our community, hey, what are we doing for third party financing? Man, there's all kinds of people giving not only what they're using, but the ways they use it and where it's successful and where it hasn't been. A little depth of things to go. And people tell us, say, Clark, you guys are great, but man, you have created a community that just didn't exist before. So that's what I hope
It's
that
free.
we continue.
It's free, and I don't think we
Free.
mentioned that. The
Yeah.
community piece is free.
Has its own app.
So,
It's off social media. It's really great. You've got no real reason to not go join,
yep.
and things like that. And then over there we have lots of assets that are free to the free group, and then you've got other tiers for some of our great courses, some of our new things coming up, some events we have and stuff like that. But it's a great place to start. So Toby and recap the 2 things everyone should do wherever you're picking up this podcast. Like and subscribe so that you are alerted when the new ones come out, because it's real easy to say, man, I like that, but I don't hear those guys anymore. We're doing it. You just don't see it because the algorithms have taken you away from it. So like and subscribe, and then go join RBA. Be in both places, and you're gonna be the first to find out what we're up to. And we're also responding to what people's feedback. If we see a lot of people talking about a subject, I can guarantee you that's going to be one subject that we're covering more, and we're going to dive deeper. And if we can make something bigger out of it, we will. But I'm excited about this year, Toby, because I want to make a bigger impact than we have. I know you do too.
Yep.
Listen, we've been at this for years, and it's consistency, and we want to earn everyone's trust. But we also, Toby and I have goals too. I mean, Toby's a parent. I'm a parent. We're spouses, and we're like, we don't want to work the rest of our lives 24/7. So we have big goals, and when we can create great solutions for other people, we get what we want. That's what Zig Ziglar, make people successful, you'll be successful. The podcast is fun. Toby and I will be doing this every other week. Every other Friday, we're going to drop one. They're going to a great season of them. I don't think we'll probably end up having some guests. Some of our pros from RBA will come in and come out of the academy to be on our podcast with us. But I think a lot of times it's going to be Toby and I just helping people overcome the struggles, the plight that they have in their business that's in the way. So the more we know about what those are for you, the more we can focus on them for topical conversations. But
Good stuff.
Good stuff, man. Toby, appreciate you launching season 5 with me. Looking forward to the rest of everything that we've got planned. And everybody out there watching, you've always got tomorrow. Whatever happened today, sleep it off, wake up, jump back in tomorrow, and you'll be like, what was I worried about? I promise you. But deal with today. Go ahead and get through it, but then get through it. So that's it for me. Disaster
Awesome.
Podcaster Season 5, Episode 1, cut.